Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our Southern California first-time buyer market update. My name is Stephen Meade with Domicile Real Estate, where we are on a mission to help California's renters become homeowners. And it's been a bit of a tumultuous week. So I want to let everybody know, if you didn't actually read down to the description, are you a winner or a loser? We are talking about in the housing market, not your value as a human being. If you're watching this video, you're all winners in my book because you're trying to educate yourself and make better decisions. But let's talk for a second, right? We are in a situation of a changing market, right? It is a market that is different than it has been for the last 2 years. And we've kind of talked about the market sort of morphing a little bit. This is a little bit more of a dramatic change. So what are the big changes? Number one, interest rates are absolutely up. The Fed is fighting to get inflation under control, and my guess is that they will raise that rate until that happens, likely resulting in a recession. You also have bondholders. These are the people that actually buy mortgages after they're made. They are worried that they are not getting enough money. Now, why are they worried about this? Well, if you give out mortgages at 5 or 6%, we'll say, and inflation is over 8%, that actually means as a mortgage lender, it costs you money to lend out money. And it means as a borrower, you actually make money taking out a mortgage because you have borrowed money at a cheaper rate than inflation. So you are paying that mortgage back with cheaper money. So what we might say to make it kind of easier to understand is that the real interest rate, that is the difference between inflation and the interest you are paying on mortgages, is negative. So the real interest rate is negative. So that's kind of causing a little bit of grief and a little bit of a situation. The second thing we have is we have a market that is slowing down. And it's slowing down in the sense that properties are staying on the market longer. There are more properties available, which is probably a big one if you're a first-time home buyer. And whether we'll see price reductions in the Southern California market area, whether we'll see prices actually go down, I think that depends a lot on your market segment. I think if you are looking at highly desirable, highly remodeled properties, I don't know how much softer those properties are going to be. In fact, one of the things we've been noticing in the last couple of weeks is that the quality of listings coming on the market has dropped. So that's the bad news. So how do you know if you're a winner or a loser in this property market? Well, I'm going to tell you who I think the winners are, right? And any situation where it changes, certain people are kind of left with better options and other people might be in a worse situation. So I think you're a winner in the housing market right now if you are the kind of buyer who can do work to a property. I think these properties that are not the most desirable, especially if they are more towards the least desirable end of the scale, I think those properties will be on sale. I think that market will be soft, and I think you will be able to get a deal. At the very least, you will see the difference between the least desirable properties and the most desirable properties. That difference will widen. So it means that maybe the fixers were $50,000 less 2 months ago. Now those fixers might be $100,000 less. I also think you might find a range of sellers who are a little bit more desperate. The other reason why I think first-time home buyers are really in a good position overall in this market is a couple reasons. So the first reason is, in the last 2 years, I will be 100% honest with you, it has not been easy to get low down payment first-time buyer offers accepted. Not easy. Some agents might even say impossible. I wouldn't go that far, but it has been difficult, meaning it might be the 10th or 11th property that you wrote an offer on that you got accepted. That's not exactly a fun experience if you're a first-time home buyer. It also means you don't have a lot of choice. That is no longer the case. So I think first-time home buyers now have choice, and they now have the ability to get their offers accepted. Two, most of the first-time home buyers in our marketplace are fund restricted. So you're asset restricted, meaning you make enough money. So money isn't the problem. Income's not the problem. It's savings. And we are entering into a market where, one, sellers are actually being willing to listen to closing cost credits, especially if they still get the price they want. And two, sellers are willing to give credits for things called interest rate buy downs. So you can actually negotiate where the rate on your mortgage might start lower because the seller has paid for that. So that's kind of an option that really just didn't exist in our market. No sellers were willing to do this previously, but now they are. So we might actually do a video on what to do if suddenly you can't afford the interest rates that are the prevalent interest rates. The other reason is the one that I alluded to. Reason number 3 that I think first-time home buyers are in a good spot is that if you buy a home today and you buy it with a higher interest rate loan, let's say 6%, because that's close to where 30-year fixed loans are looking at, you have a lot of room for that number to be lower in the future. If you got a mortgage at 3%, it's probably never going to be lower. That's the cheapest payment you will ever see on that house. But if you get a mortgage at 6%, there's the possibility that in the future, you may end up paying less per month for the same house than you would be paying today. So you have a situation where it could actually get better and your payments could go down in the future. That's kind of a nice thing to look forward to. Whereas I think people who bought a year ago, really there was no option for that. So kind of, are you a winner or a loser in the housing market? I think if you're a first-time home buyer, especially if you are someone who can do a fixer, I think you are in a pretty good spot in the long run. I think it's nice to actually have choices. It's nice to be able to buy a property you actually want. It's nice to be able to actually negotiate with a seller. It's nice to actually be able to do inspections in a timely manner and not feel rushed. All of these things are now available to you and they were not available previously. So are you a loser in the housing market? Probably the biggest group that I think these changes are not good for are the move-up buyers who have to sell. So if you have a home and you need to sell it to buy another home, you can't rent it out, that's really kind of a tough position to be in right now. I don't think that's a great spot to be in. And you might say now's not the time for you to make that move and to move up. So those are kind of our losers. But first-time homebuyers, especially those who can buy a fixer, something that is soft on the market and be strategic and opportunistic, I think you now have a lot more options than you had in the past. So let's get into the stats. Let's talk about where we are, what is going on in the market. So here we are, pricing. And remember, just as a reminder, because I don't think I've said this in a while, this is our first quartile pricing, meaning, and it is for entry-level single family and entry-level condo. So we define that as a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo in LA and Orange counties. And what does first quartile mean? Basically, it means if you took the middle of the market, that would be the median, and the middle between the bottom and the median is the first quartile. So this is meant to approximate entry-level housing. What do we see? Entry-level single-family homes, that market is looking a little softer. It is approximately exactly where it has been for the last, almost I'd say 2 months now. Condos maybe slightly higher on that market, but pretty close to flat. So not a bad situation there. Payments, unfortunately, the payments are higher. Why? Because the interest rates are higher. And we saw those interest rates jump this past week. Minimum household income, we are back to kind of touching upon those upper limits. But let's be honest, this is not any different than it was about 2 months ago. Same thing here on our condo market. Now, here is our absorption rate, and this really should tell you why some of these options are now available to you in the market. Absorption rate is 69% for our entry-level condos and 63% for our entry-level single-family homes. That's kind of an odd situation because the condo market is actually a bit stronger than the single-family home market. That is not usually the case. These in the 60s are pretty close to an even market, meaning it's not really a buyer's market and it's not really a seller's market. It's right about even in terms of sort of market leverage. Now, again, I'm going to repeat this for probably the 3rd time in this video. This really depends on segment of the market and not just what price and area we're talking about, but level of desirability. If you are going to the open house of the home that has really pretty pictures out there that you saw on the internet, you will find that that is still a competitive house and it will likely get multiple bids and you will not be able to dictate whatever terms you want to buy it. On the other hand, if there's a home that has been on the market for 30 days now, and you are seeing it doesn't have a lot of activity, and maybe it doesn't look great in the pictures, that is actually a great opportunity where you're going to find you have quite a bit of leverage as a buyer. Total inventory continues to go up, right? We are beyond where we were at the peak of last summer. This is great news if you want a single family home. We're still not quite to those peak numbers or where we were last year on the condos, but we are getting there. So you're having choice whether you are buying a condo or a single family home. Our 14 days still active, that number is continuing to go up. What does that mean? It means of all the homes that went on the market in the last 14 days, a decent percentage of those are still on the market. And then finally, we have our week supply of homes. And this is actually showing some stabilization. So one of the things that I like to talk about in our markets is this notion that in our markets, something happens, right? We go to war, interest rates rise, a lot of different things can happen that would be stimulus to the market, or at least an input into the market. And then what we see is a period where the market kind of refigures itself out and it looks for a new equilibrium point, a new equilibrium level of inventory, a new equilibrium price point, a new level of competitiveness in that market balance between supply and demand. And so what we see here is a little bit of this evening out of relative inventory. So when we go back a couple slides and we talk about the number of homes that are active, which is total inventory, right? That's just the number of homes active. That's absolute inventory, right? It's like a number of units. Week supply of homes is relative inventory. So that is relative to the number of homes going on contract. And we see we got to the 6-week mark and things kind of have leveled out in inventory, meaning we have about 6 weeks of inventory. That really is better than we've seen over the last 2 years or so. It's not a huge amount of inventory, but it's still a very good amount of inventory. And we're really seeing that people are able to actually negotiate deals, and they're actually not being told you're just going to accept whatever the seller tells you and pray and hope that it gets accepted. So really a different market that we're in. I think it's a unique opportunity for first-time home buyers. I don't think it's an opportunity for everybody. I think this is the market where you want to be flexible. You want to outline a number of ways that you're going to be successful with your home ownership endeavors. This means buying a property that you think might make a good rental down the line. It means buying a property that you actually like, that you're going to be happy with for the next 5 years. So you're not calling me in 3 years saying, I'm not happy with this property anymore. I don't care. I just want to sell it and get rid of it. That's not a good strategy. You really want to make long-term decisions. The number one mistake in real estate, number one mistake by far, is people making decisions that are heavily weighted on the short term and either ignore or not very heavily weighted on the long term. And believe me, the long term is more important. This is a marathon, not a sprint, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, especially if you're under the age of 40. So thank you so much for watching. Questions, comments, we love them as always. If you are thinking that you would like to be a homeowner, and I hope you are if you're watching this video, or you know someone who is, absolutely reach out to us. We would love to lend you our expertise and help you accomplish your goals. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and we will see you again real soon.